This episode is sponsored by OrangeQC. If you want to bid jobs well, you need to create as much efficiencies within your operations as possible first.
Just because you don't know what you're doing
doesn't mean I should be paid more.
doesn't mean you should get paid more.
Yeah. If there's no pain, there's no budget, and there's no decision, there's no sale.
Yep.
Bidding commercial cleaning jobs is essential to developing your cleaning business. We've covered this topic in the past, and today we want to focus on improving your system. We recommend going back and watching our bidding video after this one, as they contain a lot of important information. Being that this podcast is about bidding, we want to highlight that we're going to be giving a full crash course on how to bid commercial cleaning jobs like a pro at the ISSA show North America in Las Vegas. The show is happening on November 17th through the 21st, and we will be presenting on Thursday the 21st at 11:30 a.m. right on the showroom floor. The ISSA show is the place to be if you want to meet with product manufacturers, enjoy training seminars like our own, and network with other cleaning professionals. A link to register will be included in the description below, and we would love to see you there face-to-face. All right, well, Greg, this is definitely a topic that we get a lot of questions and comments about. We have done a lot of videos and things like that on this, but today I hope we're going to be able to dive a little deeper into things and answer some questions that we've been getting on the YouTube channel. And I also really am looking forward to hearing your perspective on it from like the operation side of things, because if garbage gets sent to you and you have to set up franchisees or you have to set up employees, that there are issues with that. Like salespeople can really make a problem with this. And small business owners, I think can also get into this mode of, why does it need business?
Yeah, they get so excited. It's like, I want the silver bullet. I'm listening to the podcast so I can get that silver bullet and say one thing to somebody and it works for everybody.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of people fail in sales. And, like you're saying, I did sales with you early on, and then we really realized that, where strengths were at. And it's like the operational side exactly is that. If you have someone like me, like, hey, this isn't going to work. This is crap. Try again.
Yeah.
And most operational people don't have the guts to say that. They're just like, we're going to try to make it work. And I've been there. There's some where you and I will sit and be like, you got to make this work. But like some of the topics we're going to discuss today, like what are some of the mistakes that cleaners make when bidding commercial cleaning jobs?
Well, and before we jump into that, right, it's going to be, I think one of the great things about you and me, and I want for every owner to have as well, is that we've done both sides. Right? You've done sales, you've done operations, I've done operations, I've done sales. And so it's respecting both sides of it.
Yeah.
Right? But also being able to hold each other accountable to the standard, right? Because sales is not one of those things that it's like, it's a process.
Yeah.
It
absolutely is.
It's a process. Just like it is cleaning a bathroom or cleaning an office or whatever else it is. You could say, well, there's an art to it. You're born to be a salesperson. And I'll tell you, all that stuff is total BS, right? Yes, there are extroverted people who might more align themselves with a sales job, but
if you're committed, you can do it.
Yeah. I mean,
it may be more difficult for you. It's just like anything else. It may be more difficult for you to be whatever, but you can do it if you really want to do it.
I guess the question that's not on the table here, but one that we should address is like, in your mind, in this industry, what type of person is can be a good salesperson?
I mean, for me, you don't necessarily have to be an extrovert.
Right.
As I am an extrovert, as you know. Like, we'll go see customers and you'll be like, how do you know about this kid's kids and his wife and, where he lives and his favorite food? But that's just who I am, right? So I'll figure that out. But that also helps, right? That does help because
bonding and rapport.
I can handle that.
You got that.
It's, with on my side, and then I'm on the other, I flip that coin, and like, we have instances where you're like, hey, I know this is a tight bid, but make it work. And that's when you're talking about that respect. We have that, like, got you, bro. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And you need that where usually it's the opposite, where you'll have an ops person that walks away, you're like, yeah, whatever, this isn't going to work. And he's going to prove it to you that it's not going to work by setting people up for failure.
Yeah.
So for me, what kind of person has the perfect sales? You've got to be someone that can be organized.
Yeah.
You got to be someone that's willing to listen, and you're willing to take, criticism, whether it's constructive or not, and be able to recognize in yourself what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, and be able to raise your hand and be like, I'm not good at soliciting. I'm not good at going door to door. Because really, I'll be honest with you, people don't mind the sales part. They're afraid of that part. Well, how do I get the sale? And that's what they're looking for. How do I get a sale? Just send me somebody that calls on the phone from China, and I'll get a bunch of. Come on, and I know works and it doesn't work.
And I know that we might be, rewriting some of our history, right? About not rewriting history, but rehashing a lot of the things we've talked about. But I think it's important to recognize that salespeople have to sell it twice, right? And so it's you go in, you're working with a prospect, you're identifying certain things, you're creating a proposal. But if you're a sole proprietor and it's just you and your employees, you've got to be able to create a proposal and then say, how am I going to, if I land this deal, how am I going to execute the operations side of it, and who is going to be executing the operations side of it? And am I going to be able to sell this to them as well as a good deal? And if the answer is no, then you should walk away, right? I mean, you should just walk away from it. And I think that doesn't happen enough. I think it's like, I just need volume. I just need the volume. So, a lot of the mistakes that cleaners make, and that's really the first question to me is that you get excited. I think that's a huge one. So let's unpack that for a minute. So somebody calls and they say, I want you to give me a quote. And it's not exclusive to small business owners.
They're already counting that money.
Right. It's salespeople too, right? That are like, oh, here we go. And they don't ask any qualifying questions. They don't ask like, how many days a week do you want service? What are you hoping that we can do to solve your problems? All the things that you should be asking for when you go out, and knowing that it's in the area that you want it to be in, that it's going to have a certain number of days and a price that you're willing to accept, right? And most importantly, that they actually want you to solve a problem. People don't ask those questions. They just say, you want me to come out? Okay, great. Tomorrow at 2:00, I'll be there.
Yeah.
And then what happens? They show up and
they tell you everything, two things. Everything your other company is doing wrong, and don't even ask you what's going on. Like, why am I here? That's the biggest thing. That's what the salesperson does.
Exactly. They start pointing out.
Oh, look, that's very. You want to know what we do? Here you go. And they start handing out all these flyers and brochures and all this stuff. Not like, exactly like I said, I'm going into you like, Matt, thank you for inviting me in. So what are you dealing with? Why am I here? I was like, can we have a conversation? Maybe sit down and look at stuff?
Yeah.
They don't even go through that. It's kind of like they don't flip it around and be like, okay, if you're dating, if you're married or whatever, you're not going to go to this group, check it out. This is what I got.
No,
you just throw her everything. She's going to be like, that dude is freaking weird, man.
Yeah.
They're going to think of you the same way.
Like 90 Day Fiance? Yeah,
it's
not
going to work. So you have to find out why you're even there and then say, you know what, can I solve and make them their pain? Can I put something that we do very well into that? And there's times like, why I'm here? I can't, I have a 2-hour shift and it's from 11:30 to whatever time, and I just can't find employees because no one wants to work that time. Can you do it?
Right.
Oh, yeah, I could definitely, you can do that.
So the mistake is you get excited and then you don't qualify, right?
At all. And then you don't even look at the customer. You're like, you don't do any research on the customer.
No.
You don't go on your computer. I mean, when we started, there was no computer.
No.
You had to, we had to drive by and be like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
And now you can jump on your computer and find out a bunch. What do they do? Do they make something? Do they sell something? What do they do?
Get on LinkedIn. You can do all your research. And so, I would just say, like, number one is that we get too excited and we don't ask tough questions. Looking for an easier way to manage your cleaning inspections? At OctoClean, we were too, and that's why we love using OrangeQC. Their inspection software lets us perform real-time inspections right from our phone or tablet, no paperwork needed. But here's the best part. Not only does OrangeQC help us stay on top of quality, it's a great tool to secure new customers. When clients see that we're using advanced software to manage quality assurance, they know they're getting the best. Our customers love it. With features like ticketing for task management and powerful reporting and analytics, OrangeQC helps us deliver better service faster. Ready to level up your operations? Check out OrangeQC today by visiting the link in the description or by visiting orangeqc.com/OctoClean.
Yeah.
We don't ask them, and I don't even call them tough. I mean, I just call them more like, people are afraid that if I ask the question, okay, great, well, thanks, I hear you want me to come out. Tell me, is it okay if I ask you a few questions? Yeah, sure. All right.
I do this with our customers. If I'm going to see a customer that we have,
Right.
that
Tell me why
I just did this yesterday.
Tell me why I'm coming out.
So why am I here? I think I'm here because of this. Why am I here? Well, you're actually here, Greg, because there's a state bill and we wanted to talk about it. I was like, oh, okay, great, let's talk about it.
Right.
Instead of me shoving everything down their throat, let them talk, let them tell you what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing.
So I think that's a big mistake, is excitement turns into no qualification. In a best case scenario, you show up to the building with a bunch of your stuff and tell everybody that this is what you could do better. Worst case scenario is you go to the building and they don't need services often enough.
Or you're one of three bids.
Or you're one of three bids and they don't know anything about you and they have no desire to work with you in particular. They're looking for the lowest price. Right, so that's worst case scenario.
Or they're not even looking for the lowest price. They already have their person they want. Yeah, they just need three bids to make their boss happy.
Correct. So, the one thing that what's the most valuable thing that every small business owner or every salesperson has?
Well,
Time. Right, and so what we end up,
I'd rather get to know over the phone.
Yes. So what we end up with is this conversation with folks who are like, well, the mistake I made, I'm not landing deals. What do I do to fix this problem? Well, let's start at the very beginning. Number one, how are you finding leads, right? And to your point earlier, prospecting is not sales.
It's not.
Right? Prospecting is a function of producing leads that turn into appointments, turn into a sales process, right? So create a distinction between those. If you cannot and will not, then you're going to say, I'm great at sales, but I hate prospecting.
And I always work with people like that. Like, set the goal for prospecting is different than setting a goal for sales.
Correct.
So your success as a prospector is maybe getting a business card that's actually accurate. It's the person that you're supposed to talk to. And maybe that's your success. At least then you can set your brain and say, you know what? My day wasn't a complete failure.
Yeah,
I've got all these cards. I know these are the right people. Now I can go to my next thing and set a goal like, okay, out of these 50 cards, I want to get 5 that invite me in. Because then when you go out the next time, you're going to be like, okay, now I got to switch my mind off and say, I'm just here prospecting. And prospecting means collecting cards, getting the right numbers, and making sure it's the right people. So make it a game for yourself.
Well, and really, most of the folks who are listening to this are cleaners, right? Or we've worked.
Or they think there's a magic. I was in a class like we're talking about, and it was a franchisee, and his exact words are, I want to sell. How much is it? How much do I charge people by how big the building is? That's exactly what he said.
Yep.
Is it like flat rate, or do I do square footage? I'm like, that's not sales.
No, it's not. I mean,
that's quoting.
That's sending out proposals. You're exactly right. And I would say that, just like when you're cleaning a building, right? You've got, how do I clean a toilet? And you need to be the best damn toilet cleaner in the industry, right? How do I clean a sink? Now I've got to be the best sink cleaner, right? And how do I mop a floor? How do I clean? All of those things are the methods within the actual process. So now we take all those methods and we create a process so that we know the routing to clean.
Yeah.
Why? So take that, put it in your head, and then say, okay, how do I sell? How do I bid jobs? There are all sorts of methods that have to be completed and completed well in order for you to accomplish a sale. And so we get into this thing, we start unpacking like how do we bid jobs and all of this. And so like even with us in Las Vegas, there is no anyone on YouTube who's doing what we're doing right now that's like, and here we go, and this is what you do, and this is how you can make millions of dollars selling janitorial services. I mean, I'm going to use some foul language, but those people are completely full of shit, right? I mean, there is nothing going on here.
No, they're selling. They're
But
selling,
they're
selling you.
Well, they're selling you to make it seem easy, but
Yeah.
the reality is that if you're not good at prospecting, you don't get leads. If you are not good at making phone calls, sending emails, doing follow-up, you're not going to get appointments. Once you get an appointment, if you don't qualify the person before you go out there, and then you're going to end up in a lot of bad appointments. And if you do qualify them and you go to the appointment and you don't have a good process on how you're going to do that, then and identify pain, you're not going to get them to take you seriously. Then we get to a point where we do building inventories, we do, the bidding process, we create a proposal, and then we present, which is a whole nother thing.
Yeah, it's a whole nother thing.
Right? So it's not Matt, tell me what the secret of sales is. Greg, tell me what the secret of sales is.
Like, what can I say to get $100,000 a month?
This is what you can do. Take your job seriously. Okay,
we're going to trade like Matt's saying. Take your trade seriously.
Yes,
it's. Does Amazon sell anything? People are like, no, they don't. Other sellers sell it to me. No, what Amazon sells is you don't have to get up off your couch.
Yes.
You can order it right now, and it will be here in 1 to 2 days.
Right.
That's what they sell, and that's what's putting them that's what's putting Target, Walmart, all these people is pissing them off.
Yeah.
Because now you're not coming in to buy anything. So what are we selling? We're selling a clean building.
Yeah.
We're selling a company you can call and say, you know what, it might not be perfect, but they're going to handle it. And it's going to be consistent quality services. Now, do we do that on accident? It's a hard work. It's like up at night sending emails about, you know what, the little things matter.
Yeah. Well, and look, the idea that, just being able to come up with a perfect number is the trick.
It's not.
Okay, here's what I'm going to say that people also do. They make a mistake. So we already covered,
yep,
you get excited, you don't qualify. Okay, and then we talked about a bunch of other stuff that hopefully people are listening to and being like, damn, that makes a lot of sense. If they don't, then you can leave a comment and we can talk about it. The other thing that's huge is that you're afraid to ask them what you're there for, to your point. So you're not asking for pain. That's a big deal. It's a really, really big deal. And, if there is no pain, so here are the 3 things I tell our salespeople. If there's no pain, there's no budget, and there's no decision, there's no sale.
Yep.
Right? Those are the 3 things that you've got to have. So
we can dig on that all day.
So I'm just going to dive into pain for a minute because to me that's the most important thing.
Because you're there because there is a budget.
So usually. So tell me, Greg, what is a pain?
It can be different from anyone else.
Well, this could be
think of it like your doctor. My shoulder hurts.
Well, I know that, but give me an example of a janitorial pain that you would hear.
We could go really crazy. I've asked that question to customers and got some questions that actually have blown me away.
Give me the basics. Everybody's heard the same ones.
They're good for 3 months, and then they're just bad.
Okay, good.
Everybody's the same.
All right, everybody's the same. So that's one. What else?
There's no consistency.
No consistency.
They always melt toilet paper towels, trash.
Good.
I don't even know if they're legal to work here.
Okay, so that's 3. So let's just take those 3 and unpack one of those. So each of the things you just mentioned are not pain, right? What they are is a pain indicator.
Yes.
And this is what happens too often with people in sales, and especially service-based.
They get that, go crazy.
Is that they're like, oh, they're not being consistent. They're not showing up on time. They're good for 3 months, and then you have to complain, and you have to do all this other stuff. But no one's taking the time to actually go into that thing and say, okay, well, tell me more about this issue related to, like, they're good for 3 months. Tell me a story. Like, what happened?
Well, every time I go in there, I come in the morning, and sometimes the doors are propped open, and then other days I come in, and there's no toilet paper in the bathroom. And then they don't clean the kitchen trash, and it smells really bad. And, my boss comes in, and he's screaming at me about it, and I'm just like, dude, sorry, I made a bad decision. Really, it's really stressful.
So what have you tried to do to fix that problem?
I call them. I talk to the guy. I've actually waited here for them to show up so I could show them what to do.
And did that work?
For like 2 days, and then I go back to it's the same stuff.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that you have all of these issues. You've tried to talk to the person, and that it doesn't work. After a couple of days, it's the same thing over and over again, right?
Oh, always.
Okay.
Seems to be with this company.
I mean, that's got to be super frustrating. I mean, is that the feeling I'm getting?
Yeah, because it makes me look bad. It makes me look bad because I picked those people.
All this time that you're spending on this situation, I mean, how much time would you say you're dealing with this in a week?
Probably 45 minutes every 2 days.
45 minutes every 2 days. So
I'm going to call.
So I'd say an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours a week.
Yeah, probably about 2 hours a week.
And is that in your job description to have to deal with that?
Well, I have to talk to the vendors. I'm the one that signs on the vendors.
I got you, yeah.
But usually my vendors, I'll just tell them, hey, I don't like this, and it just taken care of.
Are any of the times that this has happened, like, does it require you to have to go and pick up and clean and fill paper?
Oh,
and do all? Okay.
Or I got to send my guy on the back that, is supposed to be working on machines and cars and stuff, and this guy has to come and clean the bathroom now.
And so have you given up trying to work on this problem?
Well, you're here.
Okay. Bingo. So now we've gone from a pain indicator to actual pain, and the sweet spot, right? The way we know that we're getting where we need to go is that's why you're here. Like, that's the question, the answer to the question. Or, no, I haven't given up trying to work on it because I'm working with you. I'm talking to other people, whatever. You've got to get them to a point where they're emotional and that they have given you all the information. You're getting past the indicator and you're getting into the actual story and you're getting into the emotion, because emotion buys, right? So people buy, emotionally. They make decisions logically, right? Which we're going to cover all of that stuff at some point or another. But these are huge mistakes that people make, is that you're just walking in and you're just immediately like, look around, it'll take me 2 hours. I can get this done.
Or they do the opposite. Like, you get the pain indicator. Well, they're inconsistent every three months. It's just bad.
And then
you know what we do? This is what we do. Let me show you this.
And then they start selling.
And you're like,
because guess what? Guess what the last company did?
Same thing.
So because they did the same thing and they said, well, these are all the things we do, and you should go and talk to so-and-so. They'll tell you all the great things about us. And they're going to be like, you sound just like the last guy. Right? So like, why would I buy from you? You're not even asking questions. You're not making me feel like I'm important.
Yeah.
So no pain, getting excited, no qualification. These are huge, right? And then as we get going, it's like you turn into let's say you're a mom and pop, right? If you're a mom and pop and it's you and your wife cleaning you and your sister, whatever it is, then you're going in and you're like, okay, well, every dollar that comes into my business is a profit. So I'm just going to go and be like, so how much are you paying now?
Yeah.
Well, I'm paying $1,000 a month. So if we can meet or beat that price,
you're the used car dealer with the
yeah. You've got like
square.
You got the boxes. Okay,
yeah.
So this is this. Yeah. So
stop doing that. Hopefully.
They didn't do it last time I bought a car.
Yeah, they didn't do it last time I did either.
Yeah, so I think they've figured out a way to eliminate that. They've gotten the stereotype, and they're like, okay. But the point is that you're going in and you're only differentiating yourself on price or matching price, right? And so then that opens up all kinds of operational problems.
Or they just don't respect you.
Or they don't respect you because they're like, you're not even taking the time to measure my building, to count the urinals and the toilets and the sinks and do all this other stuff. And I know there's going to be a question here later that comes up that talks about, hey, you guys say you're going to measure everything, all the square footage and everything. Well, why do you do that if you're not pricing it by square foot? I'll have an answer to that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So big mistakes are get excited, no qualification, not extracting pain. Another big one is that you don't actually do your due diligence, do the work, do the measuring, do all the things in order to come up with a price that is going to be the right price that you can charge.
And one of our things is we want to transform the janitorial industry, right?
Right.
We want to make it so if you buy anything, if you go to concrete, you're going to put concrete in your backyard.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to go with the guy that goes back there and looks at it and be like, pulls up in his, 1980s pickup truck with the door falling off, looks in your backyard and says, yeah, probably $5,000. That should work.
Yep.
You're probably not going to go with that guy. You got to live in that house.
Well, and if you have, what the result was.
You know that you shouldn't have done that. So you're going to go with the guy that does the measurements and tells you and hey, this is what I want. That's who we should be.
Yeah.
And not just us. That's who everyone listening to this should be.
Right.
So you expect someone to come in and measure it and be like, okay, this is what it is. You're like, dude, this is totally different. I don't know how many times we get those, I'll come in operationally after and they'll stop me like, Greg, I've never had anybody, a sales rep actually measure everything and actually tell me, hey, this is how much this should be. And then I sit down and I can actually look at a sheet and say, okay, that is how much it's going to cost to clean that building.
Right. And what does that do for you in operations? It gives you the ability to do what with the franchisee or the employee?
Super simple. They make money, and if you make money, your building's clean.
Right. This is how many hours you should probably take to clean this building based on this on the the square footage, based on the number of toilets, urinals, sinks, and you can take your trainers and you can train to that because the salespeople did their job, the detailed work.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and the salesperson can come back in if they want an increase and say, look, this is why I want the increase, because they're already in that professional
correct
mindset. They're like, hey, I showed you this time. Well, you know what? We've got minimum wage that just went up $2. We're going to need to add a little bit here.
So I'm going to say this. Those of you who are still listening to the podcast right now or watching it are the ones that are serious about sales. So the other ones that dropped off and said, I was looking for something special, right? Okay. Thanks for acting like you want to grow your business. All right, so moving on.
So you want me to? Yeah, I really want to talk about people that, 70% of our people viewing right now, right? And they'll watch the video, they'll do that, but they're not subscribing. Correct. And there's a lot of, you're in this industry, even if you're not. I walked into Granger, and the guy at Granger's like, hey, Greg, when's your next podcast?
Right.
And I was like, dude, I didn't know you knew I had a podcast. He's like, yeah, man, it's on my For You page. He's like, I subscribe. And he's like, yeah, I show my kids how to mop. And I was like, oh, very cool. So I'm like the mopping nerd, I guess.
You are a mopping nerd.
So
that's a good thing.
What I'm asking for you guys is, if you're watching, just hit subscribe. So that way you can get alerted. And if you don't even want to get alerted, but at least like, hey, who was that bald guy that was talking?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's OctoClean. That's OctoMedia. We'll go see those people. Yeah. Because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that you or your wife or kids like, how do I get that clean? I love those questions because I can be like, oh, let's figure that out, because I'm the same way. I'm like super nerd when it comes to that. So if you're not subscribed, let's subscribe. And we want to thank you for that. You get live streams, all that kind of stuff. So it's great stuff.
Yeah, we want you to just be able to get the information when we send it out. And I think we think it's pretty valuable stuff, and a lot of folks do. So that's great. I think one of the other issues that we get a lot, and I'm going to go ahead and open this up to the square footage thing, is that square footage is not included in our bidding formula. Yet we recommend measuring everything. Where is square footage applied? And let me just say this: it is included in the bidding formula.
It absolutely is.
But I think the issue that we have a lot of times is that people are like, well, what's the price per square foot? Well, number one, we can't treat every building the same. Now, if you're going into Class A commercial office space, you're going to likely be bidding everything on price per square foot.
But it's 90% carpet.
It's office in and out, universal master keys, pretty simple things to clean, and it's a building that's stacked on top, one building on top of each other that has an elevator going up and down, the shafts, right? So it's easy to clean. And so it's typical that those are priced per square foot. Everything else that we do is taking the building inventory, reviewing what the square footage is and what type of flooring surfaces they are, because there's different efficiencies for each of those building or those flooring types, right? For cleaning, use ISSA, cleaning times as a reference. We take the fixtures, the sinks, toilets, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we have a pricing structure around those things. Now, it's not to say that our formula doesn't also take square footage as here's what it is. But we have two different pieces. One that does price per square foot, and then we have one that's going to be, actual building, because the building is also an hours, and not every building's the same. So you've got to be able to account for, changes, things that the customers ask for. Like, I want you to do my dishes, or I want my desk polished every night. Those things are not built into a standard pricing structure. So that's the reason why we do it that way. Okay. So, and where is square footage applied in a bid? All over. They want floor care done. You need to have
windows, everything,
windows, carpets, all of that stuff. But when you're talking about contract cleaning, no. I mean, it's not. I mean, yes, it can be, but it's only a guide.
And if we're looking at profitability, wouldn't you want to not have to send someone out if that customer says, "Hey, how much to clean Suite 302?"
Yeah.
Even if you're in Class A, where Class A has exactly that, how much is it to clean the carpet in Suite 302? Well, hold on, let me go back. And the sales rep said, "Oh, That's 5,500 square feet. Okay, Mr. Customer, this is how much your carpet's going to cost you.
Yeah.
Instead of sending someone back out and doing that.
Right. And there's a lot of things that come up that, I mean, not just that part, but also we're going to talk about one of the questions, like what goes into bidding a large account. When you have large portfolio type business, chances are that you set a price point that this is what we do. You set a price point for the portfolio, right? That after bidding each of the properties, okay, because then you're like, okay, this property is this property is this, and I'm bidding that on hours. And then I go back and I'm like, okay, so this property, if I took this and I divided that price by the total square footage, here's the price per square foot. And I go and do the next one and the next one. Chances are there's going to be a number that continues to show up. And then we blend it and we say, okay, for this location, this building, or this portfolio business, anytime they add something, this is the price per square foot.
But that really depends too, because the same portfolio, if you have a portfolio and it's like a 2,000 square foot building and you're at 7 cents a square, you're making no money at that building.
Correct.
So then you got to go back to, okay, I've got to drive there, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, your building should be this. So it's not going to be the same 7 square footage your 5-story building is.
No. So, and so we can break it out into portfolios where you've got, office only, then you've got another one that's going to be something else for medical office building, one for surgery, so that can be broken down because a lot of times with these types of accounts, they turn into house accounts, right? Where there isn't a salesperson that's necessarily assigned to it. So when a property manager says, hey, add this surgery center, we're like, what's the square footage?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll go look at it.
And we'll go look at it and do all the work too because we have to have it.
Not to get this,
but we're going to be like, this is basically the number.
And a lot of times the square footage is wrong.
Most of the time the square footage they give us is wrong.
It's like, how did we miss 10,000 square feet?
I don't know. But yeah. So
yeah, we forgot that whole
always do your work. Never get lazy. So you bid too low and the customer picked you. What should you do now?
You should have done a building inventory.
You should have been better on that.
What should you do now? Well, you got two choices. Go back to him and say, hey, look, I bid it too low. Or suck it up, clean it, or turn in the keys.
Yeah, I would say that, because we get an opportunity to work with a lot of small companies around the country that, through our consulting services. And this happens. Like we have conversations with people and we're like, well, they're like, hey, I underbid this job and now I know. And I'm like, well, chalk it up to a learning experience. And here's another one, right? To your point, the best thing to do is go in and talk to that client and say, bad on me, I messed up, right? And I need it to be here. And if they say, well, that doesn't work. Okay, well, here's my 30-day notice. And then you move on because if you lose that money month after month after month, and you're like, well, I need to do it because I said I was going to do it. I get everyone has this sense of integrity.
30-day notice. So
you're
do it until X.
Yeah, you're following the contract. This is what it is. Just give them notice if they aren't willing to pay more. And I know it's uncomfortable, but frankly, you created that discomfort.
Yeah,
because
they know
you didn't do your due diligence. So,
but you also have that. See, I'm kind of torn between that because I've also met with people that say, look, this is underbid. And I'm like, all right, hold on. You say it's underbid. How is it underbid? Well, I have 7 people there and they're there for 9 hours a day. And I'm like, the building's 10,000 square feet. But yeah, that's how we have to clean it. That's how long it takes. And I'm like, it's just like the whole mechanic thing. If I take my car in to get an alternator, just because you don't know what you're doing,
doesn't mean I should be paid more.
Doesn't mean you should get paid more.
Yeah.
It took me 3 hours. Well, the alternator's 2 hours worth of labor. It's $300 to get your alternator changed. Well, it took me 7 hours to do it
because you're got a problem because this is the first time that I've ever changed an alternator.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not paying for your learning experience.
And that's why I said in the video that we've requested you go and watch. If you want to bid jobs well, you need to create as much efficiencies within your operations as possible first, right? Because you can use ISSA cleaning times, but what you really need to do is you really need to know what your productivity rate is. And if your productivity rate doesn't meet or beat ISSA standards, then you need to continue to figure out how to be better at your skill, your trade, your methods. And if you're not going to do that, then don't go to a customer and say it's their problem that you're not getting paid enough because you don't have the right efficiencies.
Because you don't know what you're doing.
That's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. When now we're talking about large accounts. So large accounts are something that you've got to look at the overall opportunity cost. Is my view is that people are like, well, what's the most important thing about bidding a large contract? Well, number one is that you don't want to underbid it, right? Yeah. But you don't want to overbid to a point where you're not getting it, because the overall opportunity cost for that large account is going to be a lot of things, right? It could be specialty services. It could be anything. Expansion into other locations.
Could be the entire portfolio.
Exactly. So you've got to know what the overall like total opportunity, is, and not just be like, well, I've got to make sure I bid it like this. And that's what you said earlier. Like sometimes I'll come to you and I'm like, we got to do what we got to do, because
and we'll take a hit on this and go somewhere else on that and figure it out.
So
tighten it up. We'll buy a electric vacuum, battery backpack vacuums. We'll do what we have to do to make it work.
Right. And so these are things that when you get into large business, I mean that's where it's at. You want to get into contracts that are big, so that you have some stability, right? Because those folks don't want to change a lot. And the other thing is that they have a lot of extra services that are included, and they likely have other buildings that are around it. And it gives you the credibility to be able to go to other large accounts and say, hey, this is what it is. So, the rules are
open doors.
The rules are a little different with larger accounts for sure.
I mean, but you have to know, don't walk into, what they say on, you can't step into the ring with Ali just because you think you can box. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Same situation. If you don't know what you're doing, maybe you should start small, get going really good at what you do, learn your trade really well, and then say, hey, you know what? I'm not saying like $400 accounts. We're talking about like $150,000 a month, $200,000, $300,000 a month accounts.
Yeah.
They're probably going to kick you out anyway.
No, well, you're not going to have a chance because they're going to ask you a few questions during the sales process
on like a whim,
and they're going to blow you out of the water. So you got to start somewhere. And like I tell my son, it's not about being better than someone else; it's about being better than you were yesterday. And so you show up every day and you can improve. And that's why you should subscribe to our channel.
You should definitely subscribe.
Yeah. All right. So, Greg, since we're running a little longer than normal because we've been chatting it up.
Do we want to do this or that or no?
Well, let's do this or that, but let's
make it quick.
Let's keep it to two questions. Two questions today. That's it.
Okay. You want to wear a clown costume to work for a week? Some people say people already do that. Or sing everything you say for an entire day. Dude, I'll sing it all day. I'm picking that. But then the clown costume, I would do that too. But not if I got to go see customers. You'd be like, you're a weird dude.
I'm going to sing everything you say for the day.
I'm going to do the same.
Yeah. I mean, that will be a day that I'm working remotely
at the house. Like a Saturday.
So I'm on the phone like, hey, Greg. Like, oh, my God.
Okay.
That would that would be something.
Eat a spicy pepper in one bite or drink a mystery smoothie made by your friends. No way am I eating a smoothie made by my friends.
No, I'm not doing the smoothie.
No.
Yeah, and the spicy pepper.
I'll do the pepper.
That's nasty for sure. I don't do hot food, but I'll do
hot food.
I'll do that over a smoothie that you would make. Because
I wouldn't get you, but I'm talking like my kids, something like that. No,
I don't want to know what they would throw in.
Toilet water.
All right.
All right, so then we got questions. So Alex, Gad
boys
with a Z.
Boys.
1916 asks, I can't land a contract. I've been to dental offices, medical facilities, schools, businesses, offices, etc. I just can't see how anyone can get started in this business. I have previous sales experience, so door-to-door feels natural to me. I currently work as a janitor for another business, and I have been told that I do great work. However, if nobody needs a cleaning business, does it matter? I can't figure out how people do it. Any advice?
Wow.
Alex.
I'm going to tell you, Alex, so if you've been listening, then you have a lot of your answers already. But here's my short answer. If you don't have a problem with door-to-door, then your issue is follow-up.
Or you're going in, and I had this from one of our consulting clients who will remain nameless.
Okay.
He goes into a customer with a form that he has filled out, and he wants to know everything. So imagine somebody knocking on your door and saying, hey, this is Greg with OctoClean. I got some questions for you. Don't even let him talk. I need to know how how many days a week your janitorial company is, who I call, are you happy, what's your name, and then they're just like, what the?
Yeah, no,
and then they would never want to talk to him again. And then they lock the door, but like, it's that dude again. We have people like that that come to our office.
No, we do.
Hide.
Yeah, we do. And so this is where, I would say that the difference between success and failure is the one who will go a little further, and the one who will be curious enough to find why things don't work, right? And so in this case, I would say, Alex, that don't give up. Okay, if you're okay with door-to-door, you want to make sure that you're getting the right information. You are not going door-to-door to sell. You're going door-to-door to get information. When you get that information, then you have to have a process to be able to follow up with those people, because no one that you go in and talk to when you're prospecting door-to-door is going to buy from you on that day.
We had one. It was that one in Ontario.
Yeah, and it's very, very, very rare.
And it wasn't a good account.
So you're there to get information so that you can then attempt to schedule a meeting. And then at the meeting, you're starting to assess and qualify the client. And then after all of that stuff, you start to sell your solutions. And so we have it all wrong, right? Is that we're trying to sell business by going door to door, and that's not what you're there for.
Yeah, I'm not selling balloons.
Yeah, so
or like at the hair scratcher thing at the fair.
Yeah, so let's give up on that. If we can give up on that, but never give up on the process and improving that process, so that you can get to that end game. I mean, we're a perfect example, right? Like, we started a business with 0 accounts.
And if you would have met us, like when we were younger, like met our family when you were younger, you would be like, there's no way those people can be successful. There's no freaking way. No way.
I had my own mother-in-law, and I don't know if she's going to be listening to this podcast, but if she does, Pat, love you. That would say to me, and maybe not to me, she would say it to her daughter, who is now my wife for 25 years, why are you with a guy that only has aspirations to be a janitor? Right? He's smarter than that. He can do something else, whatever. And you're not going to get anywhere with someone like that who just wants to be in a cleaning business. Okay. So these are things that, like, all of us are facing these types of stereotypes and issues and things like that. It's just don't give up on it and continue to improve. And for you, I would say, Alex, don't quit. Just don't quit. But quit trying to sell door to door, because that's not the point.
You're not selling door to door.
No,
you're trying to get a contact.
You're not.
Alex, there's one thing. Learn this phrase. Who would I ask about your janitorial services?
Yeah. Who's the person who makes decisions about it? It can be any variation of that.
Yeah.
And then get a card with a name of the person, an email address, and a phone number.
And say, would you like my card? Would you like my card? Don't shove it down their throat.
Well, I don't shove it down their throat, but I don't even say hi to people. I just walk in. I'm like, who do I talk to about your janitorial services? I don't even do that. That's how I train everybody to do it, because the moment you walk in, like, hey, how's it going? I was in the neighborhood, and this is what I'm doing. Bringing licorice or donuts or cookies or whatever. I'm like, come on, dude.
Come on, bro.
This is not that. All right, Greg, so let's move on to the next question. M&A Dean J, number 1, how do you price a facility that includes a library area, some common areas which need cleaning 7 days a week, while also having a school that needs to be cleaned according to a school schedule? So I'm going to keep it simple, right? If a salesperson asks me this question, I would ask them for a building inventory, a site map, building schematics. I would be asking, what's the pain?
Yeah.
What are you trying to solve?
There's a lot there.
Like, what do they want done in the classrooms? There's so many things. So I would tell you this to you, M&A, is that if you really want help with this, reach out to us and we'll set up an hour to be able to work with you on this, because it's not an easy answer that we can
$1 million.
No, it won't be $1 million.
They're evil.
Yeah, $1 million. Okay, so you ask this next one, Greg.
Was it Tanya Stanley 6652?
Yep.
This might be a stupid question, but how do you determine how much profit I want to make without being greedy and stay competitive? That's actually a good question.
So, yeah, I mean, there's no stupid questions, only stupid answers. So let's try not.
I know. With me, it goes back to that mechanics things we talk about. There is a market value. So If you go and go crazy, like it takes me longer because I clean better. It's like, well, okay, great, but I can get it from someone else. But Matt has a great video that talks about, how to price your, cleanable hour, basically, right? How much does it take for each hour to have an employee at a site, and what's the profit margin? And I recommend you go watch that video.
We'll put that in.
I use that
in the
when
comments.
People have that question
Description,
and it's easier to watch that than for us to sit there and explain.
Yeah, I mean, we'll put the link to the video in the description. You can watch that. But I mean, the bottom line is that, like, if you're trying, you should be bidding everything. That every job should be bid as if you have nothing to do with it, right? So you're fully staffed and you have a supervisor.
And there's resources that you can look at. I mean, you have the internet. Search it up. Like, how much profitability should I have? How do I do the math? But like I said, that video, just watch Matt's video. It's really informative.
And also know your area. I think Greg, you made a good point. Like, what is the market rate?
If you're in like Arkansas, I mean, your minimum wage is like $9 an hour.
Yeah.
Sorry, Houston. That's something that you want to take into account. If Matt walks into, let's say, Arkansas and says, look, our minimum wage here is $20.
Yeah.
And he starts going crazy bidding stuff. He's like, how do I not get anything?
Well, and it's funny you bring this up because, like, I'm working on this right now with somebody in Arkansas, and it's not about just minimum wage. And I mentioned this in the video that you just brought up, is that minimum wage is what other companies are paying people to do the work.
Yeah.
Right. So if the going rate for janitorial in Arkansas is $13.50 to start, and it's $18 for supervisors.
Yeah. We don't care how much their minimum.
I don't care what the minimum wage is. That is minimum wage.
Yeah.
And so there's so much to unpack around this. But I would say, look, I mean, if you're making 25% clear off of every job, fully staffed, after you pay expenses, equipment, chemical, all of that, and that's after you have to go through like a 4 or 5 month period when you start a new account where you're it's tight because you're having to pay payroll, you're paying for the equipment, all the other stuff. But once you get going, year 1 you're making 15%, year 2 you're making 25 to 40. Like, that would be great.
Yeah,
if you're somewhere in there. So
yeah, it'll go up.
Man, I'm tired, man. This is a big topic.
Yeah,
but
water all over the place.
I know. So we want to thank everyone for watching or listening to this episode of the OctoClean podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. To Greg's point,
yeah, we love it.
Yep.
Baby.
Please leave a comment with the topics that you want to discuss next time. And if you're listening, don't forget to rate and review the podcast. And as always, we'll see you on the next episode. We'll see you later.